Hi guys. So some viewer, I don't know if it was in the stream or in some comments somewhere, wanted me to do a tiny little way to secure your internet, like internet prepping. Since I am a computer nerd by trade, I thought I was gonna do a little simple one for you guys. So first of all, you need to understand how it works. When you're on your favorite web browser, which should not be Internet Explorer, and you type in the little address hagebanke.se and go to my homepage, what actually happens? Well, first of all, you're going to resolve the name hagebanke.se to the IP address I use, and that's done by a DNS resolver, the name system. Basically a little database that keeps track of whatever IP address goes to whatever name. This connection is usually not secure. And this is the way you censor web pages usually, because random people don't know how to get around that. So in Sweden, for example, we've censored a few of them, I guess, like rt.se, the Russian news site, and Pirate Bay, I guess, is censored. There's probably a few, I don't really know. Since I'm not affected by that, because I do a little loop around that shit, I don't really know, whatever. But what's more important is that since the connection is usually not encrypted, anyone on the internet can see what web pages you're going to, and they do keep track of this. If you're using Google Chrome, they know for different reasons as well, because they keep track of everything you do, and does that officially to send you nice commercials, right? But in practice, they tell the governments all around the world about this. They collect your data and they sell it to the highest bidder. And Daddy Big State wants to know everything about you and if you have wrongthink. So yeah, the DNS thing is important. Anyway, after that, you get a connection to the IP address and the server, the backside of the server, the PHP database or whatever, generates the code for... well, it's port 443. The port is basically C8 is what kind of software you're using. Different softwares have different ports on the internet. So IP address : port. So port 80 was what you use for HTTP, and the port 443 is what you use for the encrypted version. It's not really encrypted. The state can always unencrypt it and have a look at what you're doing online, but it's encrypted for most purposes, I guess. But yeah, most should be HTTPS, which is the encrypted version, and that is port 443. Whatever, that is not important. So yeah, you have the connection. The back end of the server has generated the web page. The web page sends the info to you, and your web browser actually renders the web page so you can see it. It usually runs a bunch of code, puts a bunch of cookies, which is a way to track you and whatnot. So your web browser is basically running code, which can be malicious, and it usually is. You need to wear your protection if you're gonna go out on the internet. So yeah, that's what happens. Let's have a look at how we can be protected from all this shit. First of all, we have 1.1.1.1, which is a DNS resolver that is encrypted and that doesn't log your shit. So type this into your web browser, 1.1.1.1.1.1.1, 4 ones with dots between, 3 dots. And then you'll get to this page I'm showing you. And here you can go to App Store for your phones, and you can go to Windows or Linux or whatever. And if you have your own router, you can program the router to use this, then you don't have to really care. It'll be on all devices immediately. So yeah, that'll teach you how to do that. Now your DNS is secured. So you want your connection to the internet in general to be secure as well. That would mean using a VPN, a virtual private network, which will tunnel you through your ISP, Internet Service Provider, out to the internet, and then come out on the internet using the VPN IP address. So it's like you tunnel your car to another company's car or something, and then when the speed camera sees your car, it will see that company's registration plate on your car instead of your actual registration plate. Kind of like that. So get a VPN. I'm not going to show you any VPN because those assholes have not sponsored me. I'm the only one on the internet who's not sponsored by a VPN provider. Not big enough, I guess. So what I would recommend though is that you Google that shit, or I say Google, don't use Google either. Never use a Google service if you have to. Don't Google that shit. I'm using, I can show you. So I'm using Swiss Cows. Swiss Cows is a bit, it's not as good as most of them, but it's totally secure. They don't keep any logs. There is DuckDuckGo. I am so paranoid I don't even trust DuckDuckGo, but DuckDuckGo is probably okay. So change your search engine from Google or whatever into at least DuckDuckGo. I'm using Swiss Cows, but they're like some kind of Christian fanatics, so they basically censor a bunch of shit that's naughty. Anyway, I got that out as well. Don't use any Google products. Don't use any products. If you can, make your own email server. Right. Yeah. Let's continue. By the way, emails are basically postcards on the internet. It is not safe. You cannot write anything in an email. It's perfectly plain text when it flies through the cables of the internet. Right. Now I got that said as well. Right. Continuing on. Don't use Chrome. So Chrome is built on an engine, and that engine is okay-ish. Brave is what I use. So just type in brave.com. That is the best web browser at the moment, as far as I know. It doesn't keep logs, it doesn't send your info all over the place, and if you're doing naughty shit, well, I know what you're doing. Just use the privacy mode, so you don't save all your web pages online or in the cache of history cache. Actually, set the settings for history cache to just delete it after 5 minutes or something. So continuing on about the browser, you need some plugins. I use, for example, uBlock Origin. It's an easy way to block commercials and shit on web pages. It's also very good because a lot of these are actually malicious. They inject stupid code into your system. So you actually do need an ad blocker. There's a lot of different ways to do this. If you're a bit more fancy, you can black hole that shit in your router, for example. I'm doing that as well. I use both belt and suspenders. So yeah, uBlock Origin is pretty much something you have to use. Don't use the AdBlock Plus. That shit is shitty. Don't use AdBlock Plus, because that shit sells your information, and you have to. Companies can pay to get removed from their ban list. So don't use AdBlock Plus. Use uBlock Origin. And continuing on, I use Ghostery as well. It's helpful to restrict scripts and shit you don't want to be run on your computer. You remember when it generates the page, it runs a bunch of code locally on your computer, and that can be malicious. Even this isn't a perfect protection against this, because there's zero-day exploits, shit like that, but at least the common shit is removed this way. And if you're super paranoid, you can go into paranoid on steroids. Oracle makes a thing called virtual machine, virtual box. So I'm not going to tell you how to use this. You're going to have to watch some YouTube videos on how to use this. But what it is it's a program on your computer. And in that program, you can basically run a computer on your computer, a virtual computer. So you can assign like a couple of cores from a processor, a bunch of RAM and whatnot, and make like an encrypted computer with a password to enter that computer and all that shit. And then that computer you can set to only access the internet through a VPN or whatever paranoid shit you want to do. I do all of them. Just because I can. And then when you're done, just delete the virtual machine. So that encrypted partition, virtual partition is just removed, and it cannot be recreated because it's encrypted. So what are you gonna do? Right. So and remember, the reason that is important is because now I'm just taking a look at the event viewer here, which is basically a log of everything that's happening in Windows. See, there's like a bunch of different shit from the same minute. Just application stuff, security stuff, a bunch of shit happening. Almost all it logs so much. An IT forensic guy is gonna go through that with a tooth and a fine comb. So that's why it's important to just do a virtual machine if you're ever gonna write that article talking shit about the Social Democrats or whatever. So soon in a dystopian future near you, that'll happen. Just make a virtual machine and you don't really have to worry about stuff like that, and then just delete that shit. So that is a few things you should be knowledgeable about regarding your computer. But remember, if it's actually a state after you, you're fucked anyway, because they're like in Sweden, they're gonna make it so that even without suspecting you of having made a crime, they can put like a Trojan, which means that basically they can remote control your computer, see whatever you're typing into it. Then a virtual machine won't really help you either. They can do a lot of shit, and there's a bunch of shit that's been done. Like since 2006, Intel processors has what's called a Minix operating system on the processor that has full access to whatever is on your screen, whatever you're typing, your network stack, which means that they can remotely turn on your computer and go through it or whatever. And you can bet your life that certain governments have access to that shit. So yeah, you cannot trust your computer and your phone even less. If you're actually think that you need to be top secret squirrel, basically leave all electronic devices behind. I saw a video of someone who's fought in Ukraine against the Russians, and he said that leave your phone behind if you're going out on a mission, because they can track the electromagnetic radiation from that and basically triangulate your positions. Even if it's shut down, it's still gonna send out pings to any source. That's why you can't remove the batteries from phones anymore. That's because they can, even if it's turned off, they can listen in on the microphone on that. So yeah, be paranoid, because they're actually out to get you if you're doing wrong thing. That shit is only ever gonna escalate. So now you have some tools. Okay, hope I got you paranoid enough, because I certainly am. Okay, have a nice day.